Hey everyone, so I'm a little late on this one. I'm just gonna do it today, and I'll record tomorrow's for today as well. Or today's, I'll record tomorrow's today, and then get it out tomorrow. Um, but yeah, it was my birthday yesterday, so I was celebrating that with some friends. Man, I got home late. I was tired yesterday, and then happy birthday to me. My car needs repairs today, so lots of stuff. But you know what? I'm still here. I'm still doing them. So why not? And now that I've gone through the week of who would wins, finally, um, and rounded off last week, so now I can just get back to normal format for a little bit, or for a couple weeks. And just going down the list from person to person to person to person, and I just decided to start at the front of my list. And Corey Jackson asked the question: Who would win in a fight? Dan Hibiki, the worst Street Fighter in Street Fighter, versus Hong Kong Phooey, #1 super dog. Yeah. Now, to understand this fight, you have to understand your opponents. Well, let's start with Dan. Dan Hibiki. I'm not going to go into serious backstory, though I could, because he's actually been featured on Death Battle, so I could theoretically go through all of that. Dan Hibiki, more or less, was the son of a prominent martial artist, but his father was killed by Sagat. Was his name? Was the guy's name? Sagat, the guy kind of with the eye patch, I believe, big muscle bald guy. And he spent his life training to defeat him, and he did, but it turns out they threw the match. He's immensely cocky and arrogant and prideful. He's not a terrible person. He's just cocky and arrogant. He's kind of like Darkwing Duck in that sense, but Darkwing Duck is far cooler. But more than anything else, he's not a terrible. Okay, in terms of everyone in the Street Fighter universe, he is a terrible fighter. He's the worst. In terms of an actual person who can fight, he's still a competent fighter. He's a guy who's in shape. He does know martial arts. His style seems to be a mix of his father's, a couple other styles he's picked up, including Ryu and Ken's style. Not Shoryuken is the actual name of the attack. I can't remember exactly what it is, but he's got a couple different. He's like got a spin kick, a version of the Shoryuken, which I believe is the Dan Shoryuken, as he calls it. He just put his name in front of it. He's got a projectile which literally has like that much range to it. It's just like yeah, and then it fizzes out. So unless he can get like a somehow close in blast to that, he's not going to be able to hurt anyone. He is actually capable of using the Atsu Inohata, which is the like soul destroying technique, though he's never successfully used it. That said, he's capable of beating like street punks, things along those lines. I think he beat like 12 men in like an alleyway one time. He's not completely useless, but he's a completely worthless character in the sense of the games that most like expert players will often play with him when playing against newbies for handicap purposes. But he again not 100% terrible, but he's incompetent to a fault. Speaking of which, Hong Kong Phooey, he's in a world where dogs are citizens and anthropomorphic life forms. This guy, I can't remember his actual name, but it's kind of like Batman in some regards. He goes to fight crime as Hong Kong Phooey, and he's got a car that can change shapes, including a submarine, a helicopter, and a phone booth, depending on the need. And he fights crime with the use of the martial arts. Actually, I think it's the Hong Kong Kung Fu Handbook, I believe it was called. Now, that being said, he's not in. He's kind of like Inspector Gadget. He actually usually has another. He has an accomplice, I believe Spot's his name, who's kind of like the Penny, who kind of to his Inspector Gadget, who helps kind of solve the problem for him, or things just kind of happen accidentally because of what he does, like he maybe chops a phone booth or like a cord or something just to demonstrate his abilities, and somehow it actually triggers like a domino effect, and he catches the bad guy somehow. So he is very lucky in the way that things go along. He's not incompetent with his martial arts per se, but he's also not a supreme expert in his martial arts. There's a reason he's reading his book off and on through fights. But that being said, he's not as nearly incompetent as Dan is. He actually can get shit done. By no fault of his own or through other means, but he gets stuff done, surprisingly. So the question is, who's winning this fight? Well, let's just say they both meet in the alley. It's like Kung Phooey, Dan Hibiki, yeah, fight gets down. Now let's be clear here. If we gotta be doing this realistically speaking, Kung Phooey is still a dog. I mean, yeah, maybe he's a taller than average dog and stands on two legs and fights crime with kung fu, but he's still a dog. He's still got all the strength of a dog. So, granted, from what we can tell, it's probably the equivalent. Well, let's just be fair and say he's got the equivalent strength of Dan Hibiki. So, with that being said, Dan's gonna go in for a punch. Like Hong Kong, though, is physically smaller, so right off the bat, just and then Hong Kong gets him and is like, yeah, and just reading his book, just boom. And then, their fight's going to commence. And it's going to be a lot of just whoa, incompetent throw strikes. Phooey's going to get knocked back. Dan Beek's going to get back. They're both just going to be like, yeah. I think Hong Kong Phooey's a bit more lazy. Almost like a hippie. Just like, hey, man, that's not cool. So their fight's going to continue for a lot of silliness. It's going to be a fight of silliness. Whack, quink, whoops, whoa, banana peel, clumpiness, all that good stuff. The question is, who's going to end up beating the other? And if I'm going to be flat out honest, I think it's going to be Hong Kong Phooey. I think Hong Kong Phooey wins the fight on the basis that Dan is pretty much like 99% incompetent. Compared to any other actual fighter in his universe, he loses even against someone who's just like, who was raised as a wild child in the force, like Blanca, who has no formal training. He can kick Dan's ass. And Dan's like one of the only people he's actually learns things from, and that's, anyway, he can kick Dan's ass. Someone who's a warrior who could literally just beat Dan's ass, no problem. Hong Kong Phooey, though, has actually, when you compare incompetent levels, Dan's like 99%, particularly when compared to other warriors in his universe, or fighters in his universe. Hong Kong Phooey's more like, he's incompetent, but not in the same way. Things actually will get done with when he does something. So, I mean, that's admittedly for like plot contrivance, but it still matters. So, because of that, if we're going on a percent scale, but also you gotta factor in that he's got a helper half the time. But still, things will actually work themselves out, and really just because of something he did. So you gotta scale. He's less incompetent than Dan, and he's got a handbook. He actually knows a legitimate martial. He knows kung fu to some actual degree, whereas Dan's kind of just self-taught with just all this mix of styles that he's a jack of all trades is the thing. That's what Dan really is he is a jack of all trades. And unfortunately, being a master of a jack of all trades but a master of none against a master of one but a jack of all trades against none the master's going to beat the jack of all trades. That's just the way it is. Because if you perfected and granted, Kung Phooey's not a master of the martial arts, but despite what he might say, he's still more skilled in his one martial art, even though he's got to constantly read from a handbook, than Dan is in the jack of all trades. So I got to go with Hong Kong Phooey. Now, a percentage, oh god, that's tough, because both these guys are pretty jokey and incompetent in many regard. I would probably say we'll go 80% for Hong Kong Phooey. I think there's a way that Dan wins, because I think he's just physically more in shape. Even if we leveled them out the same strength levels, Dan can still take a fight. Hong Kong usually doesn't have to actually fight anyone. It's a lot of incompetence, Inspector Gadget goofiness. Whereas Dan actually fights people and gets his ass kicked, but therefore he can take a hit and better. So I'll go with 80% in Hong Kong Phooey's favor, but there's a 20% chance. And it's not like Dan will miss every strike. I think Dan will, land a couple solid punches. I mean, I don't know. That's what I see, how I see it. Maybe you think different. If that you can do, that's cool. Let me know. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review at some point. I just who would win Star Wars Superhero Magic. What if anything I do on the channel? Put that in the comments below. I will do it at some point. And I didn't mean to give a thumbs down. There we go. Anyway, tomorrow I'm going to do the who would win for tomorrow after this video. Tomorrow will be another who would win. Obviously, not going to tell you what that one is. Why ruin the surprise? Plus Death Battle predictions, because assuming this isn't the season finale for a Death Battle, assuming they got one more, at least a couple more down the way, assuming because it's the Ichigo versus Naruto fight, and trust me, I've been getting a lot of comments on that video, like, dude, no, Ichigo's way stronger, no, Naruto's way stronger. No, it's like, dude, you're not even comparing this. It's like, look, I read and watched all of Bleach. I read and watched all of Naruto. I did not watch or read Boruto because screw that. Actually, I hear Boruto's actually pretty good. I don't care. I really don't. I watched Naruto, and you know, I'm like, I enjoyed it for what it was, and now I don't care about that. Especially from how I actually, I don't know if they actually killed Naruto. If you read the beginning of the Boruto manga, you know, it kind of opens up like, wow, did they do that? Did they actually say that they killed him? Like, if they legitimately killed all those characters, then that is just a giant FU to everyone who read Naruto. And in fact, the entire character arc of everyone in that series is a giant FU. So, but we'll see. I mean, you can let me know if that's the case. I mean, again, I've heard it's actually really good, but I just don't have any interest at this point. But hey, that's my dick. That's my stigma. But you know, well, you know, if you like it, you like it. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, folks.